Welcome to episode 26 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. If you're looking to get out of, grow, scale, expand in the junk removal, waste, demo, dumpster space, you've come to the right place. Here we are, as always, joined by Casey Bubba Lawrence and his official sponsor, Buc-ee's convenience stores and gas stations, where they have amazing Frito-Lays and Slurpee drinks, which keeps him going when he's got those two kids running around, the Cowboys losing games one after another, and a wife that wonders why he spends so much time hanging out with me. From the great state of Texas, Casey, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What are we talking about today?
Not about the Green Bay Packers, because apparently they're the Cowboys.
Oh my God! Let's not talk about.
It's crazy.
We're not talking
it's
football.
easy to talk crap about, a team that had a terrible game without mentioning your own team that had a terrible game.
It's true. But
it's okay though.
You don't have the fortune of having a Hall of Fame quarterback. You've got a bunch of schmucks out there, so when they lose, it's expected.
You're right. I don't.
We got a Hall of Fame quarterback. We got no one to throw the ball to. I should have been out there running routes yesterday. Not too bad.
We had a Hall of Fame quarterback yesterday in our stadium. Just wasn't playing for us.
He just wasn't. Unfortunately, his wife's about to kick him out. Speaking of wives that kick him out. All right. And this is not the Monday morning after bullshit weekend podcast. This is the Trash Talk podcast.
Man.
What are we talking about
we have a guest today. We do have a guest
today.
His name's Brad Scott, and he has a pretty cool little company called Junk Busters. And he has a great little story that I think we all can appreciate and relate to, and can't wait to hear more about not just his road ahead, but also his road behind, how he got to where he is, and what made him decide to take that leap of faith and go all in to something he's passionate about. So, Brad, welcome to the show, and we appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for your service, by the way, both of you. I did catch that right. You're both vets. Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we don't talk about that much. All right, so Brad,
we don't.
Why? Yeah, we don't. Why are you on the show today? Talk to us. Why are you in this hustle? Why are you on the show? How'd you get here today?
Well, you invited me, number one. Number two,
good start.
I'm 41 years old. I've worked in customer service related fields my whole life, or 25 years of my working life. I have a passion and love for people. I'm having the absolute best time ever in my this is my start of my 13th week. Doing this, meeting people, dealing with people on my own terms. So far, our customers love us, love our attitudes, love our work ethic, love our genuine passion and dedication to just being friendly and treating people like they should be treated. We actually held the door open for two people today walking in a store to get lunch, and then said, no, go ahead and get in front of us. They bought our lunch today. Totally blew my mind. I was like, I hold the door open.
That's
for
why I
people
got
all
in
the
the
time.
junk real business. Free lunch.
They weren't
Free
customers.
Lunch. Yeah.
I don't know if they knew we were a company or not, but they said, those guys are nice. We're going to buy their lunch. Just blew me away. But I've worked, my last job was in for a grocery chain. I won't say a name, but large grocery chain. I was over safety for the maintenance department, and
Kroger?
working for.
Was it Kroger?
Yep. Okay. There you go. Kroger. Yes, sir.
Here's the deal, Brad. We're gonna lay out some rules. I don't think in 26 episodes, I don't think we ever had any rules. Here's the rule. I guess there's two rules. Casey, feel free to add one. Honesty and profanity. Those are things that we like around here. So here's the deal. You already done quit your job. They can't come after you, and there's no shame in it, right? So whatever, you left Kroger, good, right? And the reason I say that, I challenge you, is as an entrepreneur, you got to be honest with yourself and those around you, because when you're honest, even if it's about where you worked in the past, who gives a shit, right? It's about people want to buy from people that they know, they like, they trust. Mm-hmm. And if you're hiding a little bit of something that we know about, what else are you hiding from us? You got to be transparent. You're 13 weeks into this hustle, right? And you got to be transparent about where you came from, where you're going, right? And then honest and vulnerable and humble about where you're at today and what do you need. Okay, so
we're also not here to bash any your past businesses, so don't worry about that. But Andy and I are pretty honest about where we came from as far as like our past experiences with different companies. And we keep it limited. at least on here. I mean, off camera, yeah, we'll talk mad shit about some people.
So much shit.
They're
the point is to be very productive here. So we want you to be, able to be like, yeah, I left Kroger, but the reason why, that's the cool thing, right? It's not just, because they suck, because they didn't suck. It's I wanted something else. Like, I wanted to challenge myself more. Dude, I read this book, and it was like, this guy went into a job interview, and he said, hey, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to be your best employee. I'm not going to be the quickest, the fastest, the smartest. He goes, but you know what I'm going to be? The most determined to challenge myself every day to be better. And now he's a freaking CEO of this software company, all because he said, hey, look, this is who I am. He was completely upfront. So yeah, just take that for what it's worth.
So
yeah,
I left.
I don't know how we got off. Yeah, we left Kroger.
Yeah, he left Kroger.
I left Kroger, and after they picked my 2 weeks notice up off the floor because they watered it up and threw it, they found out what I was going to be doing, and they were like, oh, no, your ass isn't getting away from here that easy. And so we're signing you up on the vendor book. So they're a customer. They're my first commercial customer. And I took business away from a franchise that they used to use just because I'm me and they know me and they know I know Kroger. So I was like, I hadn't even started yet, and I got a commercial account. Sweet. So I was a police officer for about 5.5 years in Jackson, Mississippi and Brandon, Mississippi. Again, hats off to everybody in law enforcement these days. I couldn't imagine doing it today. They've got a tough job. It was bad enough when I was in it. But again, I moved out of that because I wanted a better opportunity. I moved into this because I wanted to be my own boss. And I know I'm 41 years old. If I don't do it now, if I don't take this risk now, I'll never do it. So that's how I got here. If I'm going to do something, I'm a fun person. I like to make people smile and laugh and joke and cut up when it's appropriate. And so I wanted my branding to be something that people would see and be like, oh, I know that logo, or, oh, that's similar to, the movie, and it'd be fun. And everybody so far that's seen it has just loved it. And that's my story. That's how I got here.
Well, so that's interesting. You bring up your brand. So we actually used your brand on a previous episode. We brought it up, and I was like, man, look at this guy. Like I saw it, and I don't know if I can't recall what I described it as. Maybe not fun, but I was like, oh yeah, that's good shit right there. Like, I like that brand because it popped, right. And I don't even know how the hell we got to that point, but I saw your brand, and I was like, okay, that's something I can get behind. I can get behind a brand like theirs, so I'm gonna share it. I got some shit going on here. I need. Tell them when you can see it. Can you see it? Because I'm mobile today.
There you go.
Tell me when you can see it. All right. So I'm mobile today, which means obviously I'm living in the luxurious hotel environment. I'm down here at the Scrap Expo. So last episode we were talking about JunkCon happening in October. By the time this episode's played, JunkCon will already been a thing in the past. But I'm actually at the Scrap Expo down here in Louisville, Kentucky, because I'm all about telling people, continually invest in yourself, and I'd be, a hypocrite if I didn't do it myself. So I'm down here learning scrap a little bit better this week. I've been doing it for 30 years, but there's always more to learn. Anyhow, all right. So here's where it's at. I'm on your Facebook page. One of the things that we do sometimes is we audit Facebook pages and websites based on what we've seen work and not work, just because it's interesting to us, right? And you can take our advice or tell us to pound sand. We don't much care. I did see this. I don't know, Casey. So we actually talked about you last episode. Lee from Junk Rule Authority was talking about how this is going to be your new truck. is that right?
Correct.
That's in the works.
Yeah.
Y'all love that. Y'all love that NASCAR. All right. So this is something I saw earlier. I love it. All right. Check that thing out, Case. Look at them lights, Jack. Man, I got so excited when I saw those lights.
The one thing I almost did was get strobes installed on my trucks, man, because that's like the coolest thing.
So cool, because but it fits with the brand. It's like, who are you gonna call? It's like, man, that's what's up. Like, it's an emergency.
I've got the siren now too. I haven't done a video with it, but I have the Ecto 1 siren as well.
You gotta do the video. Oh my God, you gotta do the siren. All right, look at this. Oh my God, look at this good-looking guy. Look at this good-looking guy in the photo shoot. Are you guys on the face? Do you guys see the website now?
Yes, that's it.
Yes or no?
So I
All
actually
right,
had
all right,
I actually had a
what's your-
guy when I got to his house. He said, "You're the guy from the website," and I was like, "Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's my company."
Right.
He's like, "Oh, usually they use actors." He's like, "I'm impressed."
Yeah, no, I mean, you look like an actor. Oh yeah, you go to our websites. My dopey face is on everything, right? You got the standard. Oh, I love it.
I've lost
I
about
love it.
25 pounds so far. I need to take some new pictures. I'm looking a little.
Oh my god. So I tell it to realtors all the time. As you get in this hustle, like I said, you're a couple months in, you're going to find realtors that they hand you their business card. The business card got done last month, and the picture got done last decade. It's like you got to update that. So for everybody out there who's got old imagery, like and to your point, a lot of people lose weight when they get in this hustle because you're out doing the thing every day. But update your damn. If you're going to use your picture on business cards and other static imagery, update your damn shit. Update it when you get a new logo. Update it when you lose some weight. Update it when you shave your head or dye your hair. Just update it.
If y'all don't know
you
where
can
to
see that's
start,
the old
look,
hat.
my wife is a
Now I
great
got new
photographer.
hats.
Okay, she has her own photography business.
Oh my god, you got your own. You got a new hat already. He's 3 months in. He already got a second hat. All right. So actually, I do have one question. Why do you have an 800 number, and why are you called Junk Busters Mid South? What's the thought there?
So when I looked into the name Junk Busters, it was already the domain name was already taken, so I couldn't have Junk Busters by itself be the name. So this is the Mid South, and I was like, I could call it Junk Busters Mid South, and the domain Junk Busters MS was available, so that locked in the Mid South for the name. And of course, if I ever decided to franchise this business down the road, I could. They could be different subtitles, I guess you'd call them, in the name. And then as far as the 1-800 number, me and Lee went back and forth on this because obviously I partnered with JRA. And everything that happened with me kind of was out of order for JRA because I rolled over my 401k into this business. So I started the business, like Lee said, I'm all in. I gave up my retirement to start this business and hopefully regain it. And so there's no backing out for me.
So all right, I'm going to stop it right there, Lee. I'm a man that's all about words. You said two things that already got me twitchy. Mm-hmm. So you used the word gave up and hopefully. So I'm gonna challenge you, right? You didn't give up your retirement. You invested your savings because you plan on living a better life and retiring different than what you had originally planned on.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Correct.
Now that's honesty. And again, right before we even hop on this episode, I said, hey man, you got to tell yourself what you got to tell yourself because you're ahead of the 99% of people out there that are entrepreneurs. You were in the 1% of people that said, I'm cashing out my 401k and going. I'll tell you this, I cashed out my 401k 4 years ago. It was April 19th, so 3.5 years ago. I cashed out my 401k to make payroll because I had built a business where I bootstrapped the whole way through, but I got to a point where I couldn't make payroll and I wasn't going to miss a bill. I didn't make all the best choices. I didn't get that line of credit when I had money. I didn't save for a rainy day. I didn't make the first payroll in April because we'd made it through the winter and I kept people on that maybe shouldn't have kept on, whatever. Those are the choices I made. So you went all in from day one, knowing next to nada. So God bless you, man. You got to celebrate that. Like that is not something that needs to be looked over. You're all in, and you would reinvest it because at 41, you got 20, 25 good years of living the life you want to live, and then retiring if you so choose. Right, the way you want to retire.
Why junk removal?
Well, so
that's what I want to know.
I came from I guess a childhood of working in construction with my stepdad and my grandfather being painters and handymen, and I kind of did construction with Kroger, and so I was thinking about doing like a demo construction business, and I was doing my due diligence into that and came across a franchise opportunity with Junk King, and started talking to them, and got all the way through several steps, read their packet that they send you and said, okay, I'm ready to go to the next step. And then they kind of like hesitated getting back in touch with me. And I was still like doing more due diligence, trying to learn about the industry, and came across a video for JRA, and I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. There's another way to do this? Because I couldn't quite make the numbers make sense doing the franchise bit. I'm like, I'm giving them 14% of my profit every year on a 20% profit margin. How the hell does that work?
Hold on. Okay, so what was there? Casey and I both came from the franchise world where we had a fixed rate royalty.
Yeah.
Which has its own problems, right?
Yeah.
And Casey and I were 2 of the top 5 franchisees every month, right? So it came with its own challenges. So that 14%, was there national ad or call center? What was all included?
Then,
what did you all get for that 14%?
There was. So you had to give them so much percent for, royalties back to the company, so much for their call center stuff. But then you had to do your own advertising too.
Marketing.
So I'm like, I'm paying for the name, but I have to
really?
pay for my own advertising in my area too. I was like, what am I paying you for then?
So what advertising? What kind of advertising were they doing that they didn't do that you had to do?
They said that, you're signing with them, you get the national name that's recognized nationwide. But then, like, if you wanted to do your local advertising,
like marketing materials is on you.
Marketing materials, radio ads, TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they covered your Google ads either, but it was they didn't, because you had to spend so much. You had to spend like $2,000 or $3,000 a month in advertising with Google, and I'm like, why do I have to spend that on top of paying you all the other money back every month? It just didn't make sense. Yeah. And then when I started watching Lee and JRA and all the YouTube videos, I was like, okay, this makes more sense. I was like, let me call them. So I reached out to them, and we talked back and forth a few times. And then they were like, hey, we're actually having a meet and greet. You should come out here. And like, I had a pretty good job at Kroger. Not going to lie. I took a big pay cut to do this for a few years to build back the business, obviously. But they were like, you should fly out here and meet us. And I was like, fly out there for lunch? And they were like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's nuts. I'm flying. You know how much that's going to cost me for lunch? But I was like, you know what? If I'm serious about this and I'm too scared to get on a plane and fly and meet them, then I have no business stepping off into this world. So I put my big boy pants on.
You're not wrong.
And we actually were on vacation that week. So we drove to Indiana to see my mom. And then I got on a plane the next day, flew to North Carolina, got there at midnight, they sent a car. They sent a car to pick me up. And then they dropped me off at the hotel, and they picked me up the next morning, met them, talked to them. They laid it all out, took me back to the airport after we had lunch, and I had big decisions to make. And that was in March, and I turned in my 2 weeks notice the end of May, I guess, and beginning of April. And April 15th was my last day at work at Kroger. And I had to go 8 weeks without a paycheck waiting for my 401k money to roll in so I could put the down payment on the truck. And I had a buddy of mine that lent me $20,000. I put $15K down on the truck and to go ahead and get that ball rolling. And then as soon as I got my money, I wrote him a check for that $20,000 back. And without him doing that, I would have been another probably month and a half behind getting started. Probably would have just been, 2 weeks in at this point if it wasn't for that. So I appreciate him for doing that because it helped me out.
Oh yeah, and when we started, my parents loaned us $25,000, and they said you had one year to get it back, and I paid it back 50 weeks later with 10% interest on the year, and that was our, at the time, was our franchise fee that we didn't have. I didn't have no $25,000. Like, that was astronomical. Now, not like I throw $25,000 around, but hell, I didn't have $1,000, let alone 25 of them.
Yeah.
And now it's interesting you talk about that. I'm sitting here in Louisville. I flew in from New York. I was in New York for the weekend for a retreat. I'm now in Louisville at a scrap conference, and I'm flying out on Wednesday afternoon to D.C. to go speak with my congressman about as part of the National Small Business Association, and talk to my congressman about what they need to do so that we can continue growing businesses. And my point I'm getting at is, right, we've all had that face that challenge in life, like you said about the lunch, where you're like, you're right. If you're not willing to do that, well, you already done give yourself a ceiling, right? And I've done that, and now I've gotten over that. And every time you do it, it gets a little simpler. So now for me to be like, I'm gonna go fly to DC to go 15 minutes to have 15 minutes from the congressman. Well, you know what? If I don't take advantage of that, I can't sit back and get upset that gas prices are through the roof and disposal prices are through the roof, and we're still destroying the planet when it's convenient for some people, right? So good on you for getting on that lunch, right, and investing in yourself. Because if you don't do it at that point, we see a lot of people that get in this hustle, and it's like they're willing to do it part-time or they're willing to do it full-time with a part-time job, but they're not willing to cash in their 401k. They're not willing to go to a conference. They're not willing to continue to invest in themselves. I've met people that are like, man, I got to make 6 figures the first year. I'm like, this ain't the job for you then.
No. Well,
this ain't the hustle for you, because I can't guarantee you're going to make 6 figures. And if that's what your wife and kids and family need, God bless. Keep your job.
Yeah,
but then don't
that's
complain.
The thing
You got one.
You invested in yourself.
Yep.
Now let me ask you a question. How much did it cost, just off the top of your head, after you got back from meeting with Lee and the boys? After you got back, how much did that cost for that lunch? Ballpark.
Let's just call it
Like what, $500-600?
Let's call it $500-600. Yeah, 700 most.
Okay, so $500-600. Did you know most people don't even want to invest that much into their own business when they're starting out, because they want to see the exact immediate result of that $500-600. And the issue is teaching them to trust themselves and the future of their integrity. It's difficult. Now, the fact that you was like, hey, look, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do the thing, I'm going to meet the people. Yeah, it's going to cost some money, but you know what? If I'm going to be serious about this next step and I'm going to go all in, well, this is the first step.
You got to be serious with the first step.
Well, you have to be, because if you don't go all in on the first step, by step 10, what are you going to be at? Well, it's a little expensive. I don't know if I can do this, or maybe I can get my job back. Like, you can't be thinking that. You have to be thinking, I'm done. This is my new thing. I am in junk removal now, right? So you have to remember that when you get that first taste of slow business, okay? And I don't mean a bad business. I mean slow business, where you're like, what do I do? What do I do? You have to remember, you went all in. So now it's up to you to drive forward and kick yourself in the ass.
Every day last month that we weren't doing a job, I was knocking on doors, giving out my flyers and cards, and telling people, we're new, we're trying to grow.
Grind.
Appreciate you giving us the opportunity. Everybody's got junk. You just got to decide you want us to take it. So,
hey, I keep it simple. I was telling this to Ken, our GM. He was going out for the first time a couple weeks ago, cold knocking.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he's going there. I said, you got to walk in every 90 days. And he's like, well, what do you tell him? You just tell him, hey, I'm new, right? And he goes, well, people already know who you are. I said, but you're new. I said, you can be new for as long as you want, right? If you gotta convince yourself that you gotta be the new guy, right? Because if you convince yourself, and I had a former general manager, more or less, tell me, well, they already know who I am. Oh, everyone knows who we are. Bullshit. I don't care if you go in there 90 days and just say, hey, I want to make sure you didn't forget about me. The best 6 minutes and 36 seconds, from my perspective, you can invest in your life is a YouTube video where Les Brown, I want to say Lee Brown, I don't know why. Les Brown, 6 minutes, 36 seconds, gold cast. And he talked about how he got his first job at a radio station. And he walked in 3 days in a row and kept saying, like, hey, you got a job. I want to be a DJ. I want to be a DJ. And they kept slamming the door in his face. And finally, they gave him a chance to go get coffee and hang around, right? But like he talks about, you got to be hungry. Whatever I'm thinking twice about my life, I listen to that. Right, I listen to that 6 minutes and 36 seconds, like my life depends on it, because it's too easy to wake up and say, I got shit going on. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on this. I'm going to wait on that. Oh, I'm going to, right? You got to get out there every day. And when you walk in, right, you're a customer service guy, so you got that advantage. You're used to talking to people. But when you're walking in those real estate offices or furniture stores or senior living facilities, you're walking in, you got to believe what you're about to say. Because if you don't believe what you're about to say, there's zero chance they're going to believe it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I like it. Come up with a damn tagline, right? I look around, I'm like, somebody that's got stuff laying around their house, and people are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? Let me tell you. Because they're not the one with the drunk problem, not admittedly, right? Because then they'll be like, actually, on the low key. Could you stop by my house?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, again, it's a weird problem we don't want to talk about, junk removal. Because people don't want to think they have junk. They don't want to be those people. But it's like, hell, I own a junk removal company. I moved 2 months ago, and I couldn't believe how much stuff I moved.
Oh my gosh, you're telling
7
me.
years ago. I moved shit 7 years ago that was still in boxes in my basement that now is in my garage in boxes because I moved it again. Right.
Yeah.
So
and you know what? When I moved,
we all suffer from
I
it.
hired a junk removal company. You know why? Because I appreciate it and I knew the value of it now
Yeah, for your time.
after
Oh,
the
yeah.
time, right? And I was like, there's a lot of shit. I was like, here's what we're going to do. I'm
Yeah.
going to wait through all of this together. I'm going to put it all in the garage, make it easy for them. I don't want them tramping through the new house or the old house we just sold. Like, we're going to make this thing a get it and got it good. And we did the thing, man. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you would have asked me 3 years ago, would you ever use a junk removal? I'd be like, no, man, I have my own junk removal. Why would I use it? Well, now I know,
Yeah. So even actually, our guys move me and also remove stuff from my house because
Oh, yeah.
because of course I'm going to do that, right? Anyways, we had this new guy. His name's Phil, and I told Phil his first day of business. I tell everybody the first day of business. I got a couple rules, but one of them is you got to learn something new every day. That's a rule.
You
And
have
for
to.
guys, I do periodic spot checks. If I'm there in the office at 4 or 5 o'clock when they're coming back, I'll ask them, hey, what'd you learn today? And even guys have been with us 5 years. There's something new every day. Anyways, the day that Phil and them moved my stuff from my house and also removed stuff, I said casually, I was like, hey, Phil, what'd you learn yesterday? Because I seen him the next day. He goes, man, you got a lot of shit. I was like, that's true. I do. Like, I couldn't even fault him for it. I'm like, Phil, you know what? You just started working here. Don't start taking stuff home. Because once you start thinking stuff is cool, you just become like your own customer eventually. There's a little side note. You're new in this hustle. You think if you keep everything that you think is cool, you're going to have to get yourself a storage locker in another house because you're going to start filling up and looking like your customer. So there's my soapbox my soapbox comment for at least this period of time. I'm sure I'll have about 13 more of this episode. All right.
Yeah, I will say I thought of something. I thought of something earlier today that was actually kind of catchy, and I thought it was pretty funny. Andy, I want to know what you think because it's
terrible.
You've been doing this for a little bit.
Yeah.
We're talking about just marketing and different avenues and different social media platforms that are best for junk removal. And I said, I was talking to a guy and I was like, look, Instagram, for instance, I was like, Instagram is not where you want to do the majority of your junk removal because on Instagram, they don't want to see your trash. They just want to see your junk because nowadays that's all what Instagram's used for, man. And it's completely accurate.
That was it. That was terrible.
True.
That was terrible.
No,
They don't want to see your trash. They just want to see your junk.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you saw what I already thought. I already folded my arms and shook my
saw.
head and said, "I can't. We got to bleep this whole thing out. No matter what it is, it's going to be garbage.
No, it's good.
Garbage.
It's
All right,
gonna be trash.
all right, Brad. So when we were in the green room, by that I mean hanging out for a hot second before we jumped on. You're like, hey, I'm 13 weeks into this. What do I have to offer? Well, this is what you have to offer. I've been doing this for 6+ years full time. I've in some capacity, in spirit for 2 years there, and I've been doing it for 20+ years in total. When I look at my years of scrapping and side hustling with my dad and everything else, and Casey's been in it and out of it, and now Casey. Well, we both do consulting on the side, but
Well, now I'm mainly in demolition and cleanup.
demolition cleanup and a little bit and the very specific junk removal consulting with some other people. All right, so. What you have is a new perspective, right? You got the 6 months ago. I said I was going to do this. 3 months ago, you started doing it, right? So now you got 180 days of experience, right? So here and now today, I want to know what questions do you have because there are some things that you're going to ask us that we've already forgot how we solved, right? And there's also going to be some things you're going to ask us that we had never considered, and especially for me. I need to consider that for my business because I just kind of glossed over that chapter, right? And there's probably something I missed along the way. So I want to know from you. I know the guys at JRA are supporting you along the way, but where are you at today? What questions you got for the guys that have done this, guys that talk to guys all day that do this? What questions you got for us?
I guess today would be the first day we did something really stupid.
Yes.
Yo, those are the best stories.
Yes.
Those are the stories.
What
So,
a great day to be on the podcast. Let's go.
We're doing.
Hold on. What? Stupid is subjective. Let Casey
no,
and I
it's
will be
stupid.
the. Tell you what. All right. All right, then
Pictures
fuck it,
or
tell
didn't
us.
happen.
Yeah, pictures never. All right, pictures didn't happen. You can screen share. All right, talk to me. What happened?
This is how you know it's a good story because I'm going to start it off with there I was.
No shit, there
Oh, yeah.
I was.
There I was. We were about to leave to go to the dump. And I said, I'm going to take this $300 hand truck back inside. And my helper says, oh, let me just throw it in the back of the truck. I'm going to get it out when we get to the dump.
Bust the window.
We were in a hurry, so I said, fine. Well, I'm also training this guy to be a team leader. And he's actually going to drive the truck and be in charge for the first time as a test run tomorrow while I go to a meeting to get future business. I'm going to get to go meet a bunch of realtors. So
Already growing.
oh,
Like it.
I can tell you more about that. I've been in. I was doing a job for that company today, and I'm going to talk to an office because they're the biggest realtor in our market.
Proof of
Anyway,
there you go. Already proof of concept. I like
We-
it. All right,
we-
so there you are.
we go to
We
the
all know. Just for the record, we all know how this. We already know how this story ends.
Right.
I want to hear how it ended for you.
we go to the
Yes.
dump, we go to the dump, and on the way to the dump, we decide he's never driven the truck and he needs to drive the truck. I said, when we get to the dump, we're switching. So you can do the dump, you can do the whole thing, talking to him, the whole 9 yards. Well, when we back up to do our dump, I realize he's never operated. He doesn't know what it feels like because he's always been out of the truck. So I walk away from the back of the truck to give him instruction, and he pushes the button and he dumps the truck, and it all dumps out. And I said, oh, you feel how that felt? And he's like, yeah. I was like, that's how you know it fell out? Put it in gear and drive forward real fast, and anything left will fall out of the truck. He does that. I go back there and look. Yep, everything's out of the truck. Let it down. Get back in the truck. We pulled back into the parking lot, and I said, motherfucker, we dumped the damn cart. It's at the dump. And he was like, I told you I was going to get it, but we swapped places. I was like, I'm an idiot.
My gosh.
So
Because you
we had to go-
changed the narrative.
You changed the narrative.
we had to go get the
Retreat.
a new.
Did you get it out?
No, it's gone. They ran over it with the bulldozer. Somebody stole it. I'm not even
The
going
old
back
trash
looking
ma-
for it.
No, the trash master got it. Okay.
Yeah, they got
so
it.
Here's the lesson that is learned.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How educated do you think pilots are? How much experience do you think pilots got?
A lot. Are they better?
Okay. They better, right? We hope. Okay. You ever look into a cockpit, talk to a pilot before?
I have.
Okay. You think they got checklists?
They do.
There you go. Well,
Right.
and also, I'll tell you this.
They got right. If a pilot's got a checklist, if a surgeon's got a checklist, hell, you hear the stories
Truck
from doctors
drivers.
all the time.
Checklist.
You hear the story with surgeons where they write in Sharpie, operate on this knee, and on the other knee, don't operate on this one.
Right.
Right? Because that level of redundancy is important. So here's the deal. When you are, this is the classic example. We talked about this last episode with which they're being released out of order, but don't matter. What about Lee was you got to think about how you did things when you were on the truck. How are things being done now? And what have you done to ensure that there's not a gap? And then even moreover, the next level is when you're training, case in point here, what do you need to do so that you don't forget the steps, right? Because he knew the steps. He know I go to the back of the truck. I open the barn doors. I inspect to make sure there's no metal or tools or equipment I pull off. Then I come around the outside. I give the driver the thumbs up, right? And then you tip it off and you pull forward and you fucking give the old Texas slam and you move on with your life, right? But if you don't put that in an SOP and then you as the owner, operator, instructor follow that SOP, you're going to be paying for $300. You already paid for one. You don't want to pay for.
Brad, you're going to go through many hand trucks.
Oh, sure.
But I'll tell you this. But I'll tell you this, Brad. You have to remember one thing. You are also still learning. You are still learning your own business. So don't rush into it with this guy. I'm not saying don't do it now, but don't rush because you're still learning. Now, if you can learn with him, great. But $300, I'll tell you this right now, not bad.
That's
Not
cheap.
a bad. That's a cheap fail. That's great.
That's a cheap lesson learned. Hold on, it's a cheap lesson learned if you never do it again.
Yes.
Because let's just do hillbilly math here, right? You've been in business. Let's say you've been in the dump 30 times, right? Right now, it'd cost you $10 a time for that one lesson, right? That's it. That's hillbilly math. But once you go to the landfill 3,000 or 300 times, it only costs you $1. Once you go to the 3,000 times, it only costs you 10 cents for that lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But don't make it a habit that 1 out of every 30 loads you lose a hand truck, because then that's a $10 lesson every time you go to landfill.
So
and
I thought
that's
you were
an
going to go
expensive
straight.
habit to have.
Yeah, and I honestly thought you were going to say, "Hey, he's going to throw it back in the bed of the truck, and we're going to move on our way." And he busted the back window because let me tell you,
Oh my
that's
God!
happened a couple times.
That's
Back
what happens
windows.
when you go to the truck. Yeah, when you go. Well, that's the truck. So when you go to the truck and
Wheelbarrow,
trailer method,
dolly.
dude, truck and trailer method. Right, I teach my guys. You put the
gosh.
2 hand trucks right here in the back by the back window because it prevents that from happening. But it can't prevent it from happening when you do the. I seen a guy, one of my own guys in our own backyard. He had the tailgate down and he does this. Crash, looks, he's like, right? Like there was no doubt that he chose not to follow the process. Also, how the hell are you going to ratchet strap it down and put the other tools in right when you do this? Well, because that's what employees do.
We
for
have a place
windows
on the
and
truck to
dollies.
keep the
That's a
dolly,
fact.
and it locks. It's got
I'm sure you do.
a cable lock,
Oh,
and a thing
I'm sure
that
it's
sits
nice.
on. It's great. But I was going to leave it there, and he was like, "No, it's just don't go back inside. Let's go."
No.
And I was like, I should have like,
You
no,
got
we're
creative.
going to put
Don't
it in here.
Brent, they're correct. You do it the same way every time. If you do it the same way every time, right? So this is a lesson I can teach you from ASR, alternate supply route, Long Island, in Iraq. Staff sergeant at the time, Zervis, who was from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm having dinner with him tomorrow randomly. This is a lesson he taught me. One night, we get hit by an IED. We cut through the desert because it was that intersection. Get up on a hard wall and then take off, right? And I'm like, man, we should do that every night, right? Just cut through the desert. Why the fuck we using all these goddamn roads? We just cut through the desert. Not but about a week later, we do it again. We get one truck stuck. And what happens when you get one truck stuck in the sand? Every truck behind it gets stuck. Okay, so now our wrecker's pulling all these KBR trucks out because it wasn't one of our vehicles, right? We went on and got up over the sand, but it was one of these KBR guys that were like, "Nah, I'm gonna take it nice and slow." Well, he got whatever. So Zervis taught me this lesson: there's no shortcuts in life. If it was truly a shortcut, eventually someone would call it the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you done took a shortcut, right? And maybe sometimes it works, but maybe sometimes it don't. When it's the way, it works 100% of the time.
And it's your job.
$100 lesson.
And that's your job, Brad.
Yep.
It's
Hold
your
the
job
standard.
right now to form those standards, because I'm gonna tell you, like I had a trailer. We towed a Bobcat around skid steer because we did a lot of different kind of jobs, needed a skid steer. I had the only way, and I would teach my guys, this is the way you tie it down with these chains, the binders, and I did it because in my mind, I'm thinking back Army. Do it the easiest, simplest way that someone can learn because everybody's changing, right? You're going to have different people in all the time. So it literally, you get out of the driver's seat and you go around this way, this way, this way. And when you're done, you go to the front of the truck. What that does, it gets you to circle your entire setup while securing it before you leave. And you end back at the front of the truck, and then you go around the front, get back in the driver's seat. Now, I told the guys, you can do it different ways, but while you work here in this company with me, this is the only way to do it. And that's the other thing is when you form these standards for your future guys, for your future personnel, you have to remember liability. What's the best way of teaching them how to do something with the least amount of risk? Because every job that we went that required any kind of machines or tools, the first thing I did was look at worst case scenario, what could happen? Before I go and tell these guys how to do this job or bring them out here, I need to know the worst thing that could happen, right?
And those correct. Those guys will eventually get creative,
yes,
and do things the easy way and cut corners. You can't start with 3/4 cut, right?
No.
You got to start with this because as soon as you walk away, I tell the guys all the time, I hold you to a high standard because I know you're going to attempt to get away with less. I know that. It's my job to hold the standard. I'm not your buddy. I'm not your friend. That I'm your employer. And then when you cut the corners, we don't get the revenue. When we don't get the revenue, you don't have a job because I can always get back on the truck. You can't always just manufacture fucking work. If we don't have a business, we don't have work.
And 9 times out of 10, those standards are built on past experiences,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, I already tried that corner you cut. This
Correct.
is why it doesn't work.
Then I didn't try it. I did it, and I already paid $300.
I
Yeah.
came from
Like,
safety.
that ship sailed.
And I used to tell my guys,
There you go.
It doesn't matter what you know, how many times you've taken the safety test. If when you're on your job and you take the risk and you do it the wrong way, if it goes wrong, you're paying the consequence. Nobody else but you.
Yep.
It doesn't
I
matter what you
remember
know
that
if
when
you
we
don't
went
do
to,
it.
Yeah, it don't matter. Well, the other thing, I went to I remember combat lifesavers course I took at
Oh my gosh.
Fort Knox. I think I took it at Fort Knox. Yeah, Fort Knox, Fort Knox, Kentucky. I can't remember if I took it Camp Batterbury, Indiana, or Fort Knox, Kentucky. Anyways, I took that at Fort Knox. I remember at the end of it, there's multiple choice because everything in the Army is go, no, no, go, go or no go. I remember with multiple choice test, and at the end of it, it was like 50 questions or whatever it was that time. They read off all the names of people that passed. Right, and then it inferred who didn't pass, right? Who's not going to get this high speed combat lifesaver bag? And I went up to the instructor. I said, "Hey, what was my score?" He goes, "We don't tell people scores." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because I don't want you to think that you know it all, or only focus on what you don't know. As soon as you walk out this room, you don't know shit, right? You got to know that you got in that moment, or before that moment happens, you got to continue to practice, train on those skill sets. Just because you can stick somebody." Right, in an ideal environment does not mean you can, stick them in the field. Right. So you need to practice your skills. According to the Army, you met the minimum standard.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you got to start with that mindset. Like you said, you don't pass the safety test, but that doesn't matter if you don't practice what that safety test taught you. Right. That just shows you were competent at one point in your life. What you do day in and day out is actually what matters.
So Brad, how many jobs you got under your belt? Do you know that number?
Yes, I do. We have done. We have quoted
Good.
56 jobs, and we have done 65 of them.
That math don't work out. You quoted 56, and you did 65.
85, 86. We've done 65.
Oh, okay.
You said 56 at first. All right.
I might have.
You can't do more jobs than you quote. No. That's all right. Okay. So you quoted a total of 86 jobs, and you've done 65. So you got a 75% close rate. Hillbilly math.
Not bad.
Not bad, which is probably about the standard. How many of those 75 or how many of those 65 jobs did you do immediate? Is that your business model? Do them immediately, or is to come back?
I would say that most of them we did immediate. Probably 90% were in the other 10%
Like same
were
day
scheduled.
or same week.
Same day or next day versus scheduled.
Okay, so you're scheduling. You're telling people, hey, so what happens if you show up to a job and you're like, hey, it's going to be a half a truck. What's your half a truck price?
Half a truck price is
$350.
I didn't bring that sheet in here. It's like $448.
Okay, so I my first thing is you got to know that number off the top of your head, just because you do, right? Again, if you got to hold yourself to that standard, so the other guys know. Okay, so let's call it four and a half, 450. All right, so your half truck is 450, right? What happens if you show up to the job, tell them it's 450, they say no, I don't want it, right? How are you scheduling right now? Do you have another thing lined up right after, or do you already allowed to get job?
We're not busy enough right now that we've had multiple jobs scheduled at the same time frame, although we are equipped to be able to do that. We have only one truck, and I guess
I'll tell you this real quick. Whenever you're scheduling, I always try to push my customers to meet my needs as the business, rather try to meet their needs. Now, when I say that is when it comes to scheduling, you have to understand your business means what's better for you. Now, you don't tell them no. You just say, hey, would it be better?
Best for me?
Could we do this? This is what's best for this really works. Now, at the same time, I always like to have flexible jobs in my afternoon schedule, because when they're flexible, you can move them up. People would rather be moved up than pushed back. Yep. And what I found is, like, let's say we have a light day. I'm trying to remember first year, second year, but a light day would be like probably 2 or 3 jobs for one crew. That's a light day. And I would be like, okay, well, the first job, man, we knocked it out quick. Second job's not till 1. Well, call them. Hey, I know you're at 1. but I know it's 9:00 in the morning, but man, we are ahead of schedule. Can we come by? Oh, I don't get home until 12. Okay. So we're going to keep you at 1. Call the next job. If no one can move up, you do for those 4 hours. If you have people on payroll, you cut them early for lunch. That's for sure. But then you also do some marketing.
Yep. Door hanging, cold calling, cold knocking, anything you can do.
Yeah.
Go drum up
we
business.
do that.
I told someone.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now you start each day with an estimate or two or expectation of jobs. And are there times where you already quoted over the phone and they already said, yep, we're good to hook?
I try very hard not to quote on the phone. I try very hard to not quote looking at a
Good.
picture. I explain to them that I want to be as fair as possible, that we have 13 price points in the truck and that we're only going to charge them for the amount of space that they use, that we have to see it for ourselves.
So what are your 13 price points? That's a lot of price. That's a lot of deviation. What are your 13 price points?
If you want me to speak without them in front of me, I couldn't tell you. My mind doesn't work like that.
But I'm saying you have like
they're wrote down.
What do you got? Like a single?
Items?
Do you have like a single
there's,
item, an age?
There's 12. There's
quarter,
12 price
3/8?
points. There's 12 price points in the truck,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the minimum. So that's 13.
So what are the 12? So you have. I'm very confused on your 12 price points.
So for me, when I did trailer pricing, I would tell them, hey, you got quarter, half, 3/4, and full. And it's like, well, what if it's between one or the other? Well, then I'd have either 50, I think $25 or $50 increments to kind of break that up. Because I don't want to get too specific, because then you're there counting items. At the same time, I've also seen companies where they do, hey, a couch is this much, but a mattress is this much, but a table is this much. I didn't like doing that either, because it gets too much. Then it's hard to teach your people that. It's hard to have them go off the cuff and actually talk to customers that start asking those questions.
We have a sheet on the truck that lays it all out, what the truck looks like.
Yeah.
What each price point is, how much time loosely is associated to each price point. And
is that all stuff JRA taught you all?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's interesting. You got 13 deviations, because there's different ways of doing it. So,
you start off at an eighth, and then you got a sixth, and then a third, and a half, quarter. You got all the fractions.
Oh, okay. So it's all got it. So that was the answer. Okay, so you have 12 different fractional price points based on how much it fills the truck, and then you got to be objective. Right, you have an objective number, but again, two eyeballs can see it different. There's a little subjectivity to it, because.
From a quarter truck to 3/4 of a truck, that's your profit zone.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Less than a quarter. Yeah, you don't make money on single items.
So
you lose money on single items.
My average job, I wrote a bunch of stuff down because I knew you were going to be asking questions. So my average job over the past 3 months is $558.
There you go. I did. I told him, hey, come with some numbers, because if you just come on here with nothing, it's going to be difficult for me to support you, right, in this endeavor. So your average job is, just north of a half trailer, just south of a 3/4 trailer.
Right.
Which,
that's good.
To your point, you hit something interesting. A lot of junk and wheel guys don't get this. That 1/4 to 3/4 trailer is it is a beautiful sweet spot, because you can get those jobs done efficient. You can also turn 2 into 1. You can do 2 halves, which is worth more than 1 full.
Yep.
Especially when you're a one truck operation. I love having full trailers, but it kills your flexibility, right? And also, the 3/4 trailer, when we did junk roll for years, 3/4 trailer was our lowest SKU. We'd have just as much quarter trailers and half trailers as we did full trailers, right? That was about 25, 25, 25. And then about 12% or about 10% of our business with 3/4 trailers, and 15% with our single items. That's just that was hillbilly averages, and those 15% of single items I lost money on. Yeah. And the quarter trailers, if they're not routed correctly, you're just playing a break even game.
So the singles,
that's where it's at. I like half, and I like fulls, but I like fulls because I had more than one truck day one. Yeah. Right. So I could send multiple trucks to a job that was 1+. Or I can have one truck dedicated to doing 2 or 3 full trailers in a day, and the other one chasing around making me money, doing the half trailers all day.
We treated single item pickups as convenience to our customers, but also upsell opportunities. It's all about what the customer knows, because you'll be surprised. a lot of customers will search refrigerator pickup, and then you may pop up. You may pop up. You go pick the refrigerator up. Little do you know, and little do they know that you can do it, but they have an attic full of crap or a garage full of crap, but they think you just pick up appliances because that's what they searched.
Right.
So that single item pickup is a perfect opportunity to say, hey, here's a little bit more about what we do. And just let us know how we can help you in the future. And then they'll either be like, hey, actually, I got some shit right now you can look at. And, I can go take a look. But at the same time, I think it's interesting with the different points of prices because, like, for us, and like Andy said, like, there's no right or wrong way really here. It's just different perspectives. But for us, I always loved getting in front of the customers because you're already doing the right thing. I don't personally like quoting over the phone because whatever number you say is the number they hear. And when you get there, they're going to be like, well, you said $99 for a full truck. Last thing you're going to do is argue with someone, right?
Yeah.
So, you always want to get in front of the customer.
Where we quoted it, and then they wanted us to come back the next day. And we come back the next day, and I was like, we start loading the truck, and they were bringing stuff out, trying to help get it to us. And I was like, y'all are bringing out a lot more stuff than we quoted. And they saw it, and I was like, I'm going to pack it in here. But this is way more than what I quoted.
And this is where you get into knowing the value of adding more to your load, right? So I would tell them when I would do estimates, I'm actually going to do a video on estimates, and I'm going to have Andy do some feedback on that as well for me personally. But when I would do estimates, I would let them know what it looks like now. And I said, but by the way, like, let's say it was a quarter trailer. I'd still tell them my half, 3/4, and full. I want them to get rid of more because A, they're spending more money. B, I'm there longer. And C, I'm teaching them the value in it, right? So my price, it increased, but it wasn't on par with like the first quarter. So for instance, if you have a $99 item, that's my minimum pickup, $125, whatever. But my quarter trailer is $250. If your half trailer is, let's just say it's $375, right? Well, a quarter trailer is $250. Why wouldn't it be $500? So you're trying to let them see the value in giving more stuff to you, of course, obviously. But in that instance, it happens all the time. They always try to, hey, I got this as well. Now, if it's like an item or two, like a chair, whatever. But if they're like, hey, I got another closet or a shed, then you got to start, hey, look, it's going to cost a little bit more money.
Yeah.
So
they ended up going ahead and giving us the full truckload after they saw what we were doing. So they were nice, they were nice about it. But
great. Well, because got it. But you're also going to get that person. I had a lady, I can remember it as like it was yesterday. She sent us a picture. She didn't have her kid on the couch when she took a picture of the couch. It was crazy. And then she took a picture of the garage. And I was not running the business at the time. There's someone else running the business at the time. And he's like, oh, that, it looks like a sectional, which is about a quarter trailer. And it looks like maybe another quarter trailer in the garage. Well, her picture from the garage was, you couldn't see nothing, right? Well, they quoted over the phone for a half trailer. They done went there. It'll be a trailer and a quarter. And she stood there and said, this is what you said it was going to be.
Yep.
Right. So the mistake he made was a couple things. One, he did it over the phone, which I do them all. So my math says this. If it's less than a half trailer, we quarter the phone all the time. I just want pictures. I don't want to be chasing down estimates for half trailers. Or I'm sorry, another half, just give me a description, right? Because I'm going to copy and paste the description. If it's a half to a full, send me pictures. If I anticipate it being more than a full, I'm going to come up, right? And that's and do an estimate ahead of time. There's my break points. But for you, I would continue on that path you're on of you got to do at least 100 estimates before you can even look at 101 and figure it out. Because 101, there's going to be something different on that 101st one than there was on the first 100. That's just what it is. So once you feel comfortable, that's what I tell people. Once you're comfortable, that's when you do it over the phone. There's not a magic number. And I also tell people don't do it right away because you're gonna lose money. Right? You got to do it until you're comfortable where you can articulate it. So there's that second lesson is document. So when you go in there on Tuesday and then you go Wednesday, the way you protect yourself is you take pictures and you make sure you have a detailed description with that quote that said living room, boom, boom, boom. Garage, boom, boom, boom. Because what's going to happen is all of a sudden you go in the bedroom and all you say kindly and politely is like, hey, absolutely, we love taking this. We want to take as much as possible because we're going to share in the efficiency. But if you see this quote right here, because eventually it's going to be your employee doing the job, not you, right? You'll say, hey, man, I'm only down to do the living room and the garage. We can have no problem doing the first floor or doing the bedroom. But if it's on the list, I'm going to let you know right now it's going to be a little bit more money, and this is what the pricing looks like. Because then when you're doing it right now, you're the same guy quoting and doing the job, you can have that conversation. But what's going to happen is your guy's going to be there and you're not, and they're going to say, "Oh, I told him the bedroom. I don't know why he didn't write that down." Right. And so you just got to say, "Hey, it doesn't even look like we're going that living or that room. So we're not going to that room." So, and this conversation happens before you put one on the truck. You do it with that initial walkthrough. And then if they just say, "Hey, just keep loading it, I'll tell you when to stop." Hallelujah. I got a customer. We're going back on Thursday. I quoted them 8 trailers in the basement. This is back in May. I quoted them 8 trailers. They said, "Oh, we don't want to do it." I said, "Okay." They said, "Tell you what, we're going to do 2 trailers at a time, 1 a month." We did 2 trailers in May. We did 2 in June. We did 2 in July. We did 2 in August. They finally said, "All right, we're kicking this lady out, their family, because we're going to sell the estate. Oh, by the way, we got a shed." So we did the first 8, 2 at a time, and then that was just the basement. And then they're like, "All right, do 2 at a time in the first floor." They finally told us this week, "Keep going till you're done. We don't give a shit about her. We don't give a shit about the money. Just get it done." It took us 6 months, and we're going to end up being probably 14 to 18 trailers, depending on how much more rooms. They keep adding more rooms that we didn't even see yet. So it's not even like we misquoted. They just keep adding. So make it very clear with your customer what your pricing is. To Casey's point, make it so it's convenient for you without disrespecting them, obviously. So that's what's going to protect you. Because as soon as the first time you got employees doing a job that you quoted and you're not there, that is the next level of business. And you got to avoid these pitfalls. You're not paying for a $300 dolly, right?
Well, and also you have to look
by cutting corners now, by not writing down description, by not documenting. And I know I cut you off, but I had to hammer home that point because we've all done it before. And you're like, "Oh, man, why that didn't happen?" Well, it didn't happen because you didn't document it. You didn't do what was right at the time. You cut a corner, and your employee. Here's the thing: you cut a corner, the employee cut a corner, the customer cut a corner, and life cut a corner, and now you ain't got no corners.
Yeah, and we're not trying to overwhelm you here, but the other thing is,
we're good.
You're going to get a lot of people that think a sectional is a single item. I never counted a sectional as a single item.
Fuck no,
obviously.
So what
hot tubs, pianos, sectional couches. They ain't single items.
What would you say you charge for a sectional?
It just depends, honestly. It would depend on the actual sectional because
so
I've seen them where it's quarter trailer. I've seen them where it's more.
You said a quarter trailer, and that's exactly my price. Exactly. It's a quarter trailer.
So I go by capacity. I only have 5. I have 5 different SKUs outside of capacity, and that is upcharge for tires and TVs. Right, those are straight upcharges. I'm going to get the capacity plus the upcharge on those 2 items because I have recycling fees associated with that. And then the only 3 things that I have special pricing for is sectional, a hot tub, and a piano. And then hot tubs, I do 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot because a 6 foot is 2 guys, 7 foot is 3 guys, 8 foot is 4 guys. That's why it costs $50 more per. Pianos are 2 prices, spinette. Right, so basically anything or under 4 feet, and then I have uprights, players, and baby grands. They're I think $50. No, I don't think. I know it's $50 more because I got to bring a 3rd guy, potentially a 4th guy, and then sectionals. We call it. It's a 3-piece sectional. So a 3-piece sectional can be the L couch and the ottoman. It can be the big L where it's got the center, the 1/3 piece, and then every piece thereafter is $45 a yard. That's it. So we charge $45. So even all other pricing, we do a quarter trailer, right? So we do a single item, and if you got a single item plus 2 more items, it's $45 a cubic yard for those items. So if it's like 2 chairs, it takes up a yard, it's a yard, right? But if it's a fridge to start with and a bed and a couch, well, I'm gonna count them yards, right? And just so happens that fridge, mattress plus 2 more yards, 3 yards plus that single item. At 125, we're almost exactly at a quarter trailer. It's like within 10, 12, 20 bucks, I think it is, right? Yeah. So, and then that also for our guys, I tell my guys, you can do a single item, a quarter trailer, or a half trailer, plus up to 2 or 3 additional yards for that flex. But after 3/4 trailer, it's a 3/4 trailer, or it's a full. Like, we're not playing these games. And the reason I say that is the more difficult it is for you to explain it to the customer and for you to explain it to your guy to the customer, you start to lose a little bit of that confidence. So I'm okay with your 13 price points so long as you can articulate it. I don't care what your method is, but you got to be able to articulate it so your guys can articulate it.
I think in total, yeah, you're going to have more. I mean, when it comes down to now that I think about it, my price sheets, because then you get into more specific services like labor and like for instance, like hot tubs, for instance, I had 3 sizes, small, medium, large. The small was, I think, 4 to 6 seats. Medium was 6 to 8 seats. And then large was like 10 to 12 or whatever it was. Yeah. But they were flat rate prices, no matter how easy it was to get in or what. And I would tell them the same thing. Like for instance, I think, don't quote me, I think the large hot tub was like $475.
That's what I'm at. I'm at $375, $425, $475 right now.
And I was like, hey, so if it takes us more than an hour for this hot tub, it's going to be an extra $75 or something, because I wanted them to understand that, you know, we're going to try to get it out of there within an hour. It may take us an hour depending on where it's located, if it's in a porch, whatever. Yep. Also, you know, the one thing, Brad, I challenge you to do is to look at your labor, and then look at the value of your services, right? As far as if you could put an amount on them. The last thing you want to do is price yourself in a way to where next year it's hard to keep up with the Joneses. I'm not saying you're too cheap or too high right now. I don't know. But just make sure you know those numbers. Because like for me, I think in 6 years we had 3 price increases.
Yep.
Yeah. We're cheaper than we're cheaper than 1-800-GOT-JUNK, but more than some of the what do you call it? Cliff in a truck. That's or fine. Something.
Yeah. Chuck in a truck.
We're more than some of those guys that I've been able to get prices from, but we're way under 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So like I had somebody call 1-800-GOT-JUNK right in front of me, and they laughed and they said, "You got the job," and I was like, "Told you." Yeah.
That's a very good strategy.
It is,
right, and it's not a knock on 800-GOT-JUNK. They have infrastructure that they have to pay for, and if you're looking for quick, convenient, I don't care, just whatever the first thing on top of mind, hey, you're going to pay for that. And 800-GOT-JUNK obviously runs a great business model. We don't on this show we never knock 800-GOT-JUNK. Even Lee, who was talking before, he's like, hey man, if you can buy 800-GOT-JUNK franchise, you got $1 million+. God bless. Like they figured it the fuck out. Now every other franchise, not so much. So the sweet spot from what I've seen is a hair below 800-GOT-JUNK, so you can make the argument, right? And then you have a truck that's similar in size. I know Lee already told me y'all run that 14.3 cubic yard truck. We call it 15. I love that politician math is what we called it with Lee. God bless him, right? And 800-GOT-JUNK's running that same truck. So if you can articulate that value, like whatever the hair is, right? I that's a subjective of what you're comfortable with. I like to be 10% or so below 800-GOT-JUNK, right? 5 to 10%. And my argument there is I'm going to take that 10%, right? I'm not paying a royalty. That's where my argument is, right? I can be less expensive because my money's not going to go up to Canada, right? And I tell that to people straight up. That's how I come with my price. That's one indicator of my pricing, right? Am I a hair above the other regional guys? Absolutely. I got 20,000 square foot warehouse where I process and recycle material. I got 1 or 2 full-time warehouse guys. That's what I am employing more people in this city so that we keeping material out of the landfill. Most people, you don't even have to get into that point of the pricing because you've articulated it. I'm going to touch on what Casey said when it comes to when do you charge more for stuff. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to charge more for stairs. We're going to charge more for this or more for that. Again, that can be a prohibitor. Some people, I know 800-GOT-JUNK in our area, they charge more if they got to box it up or bag it up. Again, those are just what people do. For what we do is I tell people, Casey's point about 1 hour, I give them a half hour. For single items, if it takes me more than a half hour to get a single item out, I'm charging you every 15 minutes, 2, 3, 4-man team that's already predetermined, right, to do what I got to do. Now, if it's 35 minutes, I'm not pissing and moaning, right? But what I mean by
also
that
judge
is
it on that single item too. Like if it's a side table, yeah.
Oh, correct. I know. But most times, what are things you got to take apart? It's a pool table, right? It's a hot tub. Like I've had to disassemble hot tubs, right?
Cut them up, whatever.
Recip saw, right? I'm not charging you for every blade I burn through, but I'm gonna charge you for the time because you decided to put a hot tub in a house and then build some walls around it. That ain't on me, right? That's on you, Jack.
The only time that's where
you can start to figure it out.
The only times that I've eaten jobs, it wasn't on how I bid them, like volume wise. It was not realizing that something was going to be as labor intensive as it was going to be, and those have been some quick lessons to learn. Yeah.
No, and you know what? It's cheap. It's cheap when it's you and you don't have another job. It gets expensive when you quote a job and you got it down for an hour and you build another hour in buffer, and then the job takes 3 hours, and it's your guys and it's their time, and now you're late for your next customer. Right? That's when it gets real expensive. So you got to get those 1,000 jobs under your belt. You got to do it. However, whatever the magic number of jobs is for you to say, okay, I got my head wrapped around this. I figured out enough to write enough SOPs to prevent all these other things from potentially happening.
Yeah. And like real quick, like the playset, we get a lot of playset removals here in Texas. I'm going to tell you right now, I've tried it every which way. I've tried disassembling. I've tried demoing it, cutting it up, keeping it, whatever. The best and easiest way for my company to get it done, not myself, but for my company, was to cut it up into 4 sections and haul it out of there. Because
did you use a circular saw or a recip saw?
The Sawzall. Sawzall with
it's a reciprocating saw.
Whatever.
Okay,
it's called a Sawzall.
Unless you have Milwaukee,
like me,
saw. And then it is the Sawzall.
Then correct. If you have a Milwaukee branded Sawzall, fine. Here's what's fucked up.
It's
red.
The
Milwaukee headquarters. It's red. The Milwaukee headquarters is 4 blocks from my shop. I drive by it every day. If I'm going west, I drive by. I'm like, oh, there's Milwaukee, right? They're the world headquarters, 4 blocks from my shop. The flagship Home Depot store, 5 blocks from my shop. I used to be a Black & Decker DeWalt rep at that store, and I was raised on yellow. I don't know. Matt Kenseth all the way, 2003 NASCAR champ. I think it was a Winston Cup back then when we still liked cigarettes.
Can't do it.
I think it was actually Sprint, right? And anyways, so I was raised on yellow. My dad has been a yellow guy since the late 80s. Milwaukee's right there. They maybe if they offered me free tools, I don't know. But I see the Milwaukee reps all the time, and I'm repping my yellow DeWalt. That's where it's at for me. So when I hear the word skill saw, no. It's a circular saw. When I hear Sawzall, no. It's a reciprocating saw. Now, I will say, so that's my cordless line. My cordless tools are all DeWalt.
I got like 1 more minute, by the way, before I'm going to have to bounce.
Jesus.
Sorry.
All right. Of my corded tools, I do have Milwaukee Sawzall corded. Otherwise, I call it a recip saw. All right. So Casey's only got 1 more minute. We covered a lot of ground. He's got a wife and kids and responsibilities that I don't quite understand. God bless him. He's got a beautiful family. All right. So we can keep jamming. And all right. Well, now you're talking my language. We started the show with Brad getting free lunch. We're ending with Casey getting dinner. All right, Brad, last question. While we're on the hot seat, quick fire, what questions you got for us while you got us before we all got to jump?
You know, I struggled with this, thinking about what I could ask you guys. And I guess I come from being raised where you got to learn on your own to better understand it. You know, free advice is exactly what it is, free advice. And most people don't take it when they hear it. I really don't have any questions, and I haven't even reached out to Lee or to any of, because I got free consulting, like 10 hours of consulting with Sam. I haven't even used one of those hours yet. I'm new and I'm learning. I'm soaking it all up. I'm loving it. I'm owning my mistakes when I make them, and I'm learning from them. If you're not, like you said, if you're not learning every day something on your own, then you're losing the battle already. And I just don't have a question to ask you guys. I mean, I just don't.
That's fine.
That's fine. No, here's the advice I'm going to tell you, right? You're not making mistakes. You're making choices.
Yeah.
Right? And choices, every choice, only one of 2 things can happen. It either works or you learn.
Yep.
That's it. So I also at this time, so this is the advice I'm going to give you, right? Whether you do it or not. And not even just bullshit advice or suggestion. A no shit, if I was you, I would type of recommendation, right? So if I was you, I would do this. Every single day you do something, right? In your business, get a big ass list. I don't care if it's Excel spreadsheet or a notebook binder, right? Document everything you did and put it into 1 of 3 categories. Start, stop, continue, right? So in the case of that job you lost money at, I'm going to stop whatever that thing was, because 6 months from now, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I kind of remember doing that, but you know what? I'm going to do it better this time. And you're going to lose money on it again. You go, God, I said I would never do it, right? So write it down. And also, man, you know what? I really want to have a billboard someday. I really want to sponsor NASCAR. Put that down in your start bucket. Give yourself that thing to look forward to. So when you're struggling, you're like, you know what? Hold on. I got all these good ideas. Let me go back to my good idea book. Right?
That makes perfect sense.
Just, what we call the military. Right? But start documenting now, because I didn't do that. And then you forget. And you end up having to pay for the lesson again later on down the road. And that binder, that book, that becomes your SOP. That becomes your Bible. Because someday someone's going to be looking for you to full price, and you got to go right back. Start, stop, continue methodology.
Start, continue. Yeah.
Start, stop, continue. All those 3 buckets. So there you go. There's my advice. Brad, love having you on. I encourage you to continue to reach out to other people in the industry, right? Be willing to be vulnerable. I know you were raised a certain way where you got to learn the hard way. Did that before. You got to get over that hump and learn the smart way. So when you are ready to reach out to Lee and the team over at JRA. You can reach out to Casey and I, and you can also reach out to our fellow listeners. We're all in this struggle and the hustle together. So reach out to each other, learn from each other. For the people that want to get a hold of you, what's the best way of getting a hold of you, Brad?
bscott@junkbustersms.com. That's my email, and cell phone 601-503-4770.
Cool. So we'll get Taylor to drop that in on the episode. So people are going to want to reach out to you, because now you're an inspiration for those people that want to get into this hustle. So, Brad, thank you again for your time. Casey's got to get to dinner. I got to go find some food in this town of Louisville. Brad, appreciate you for episode 26 of the Crash Talk Business Podcast. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.